What is going on, guys? As you saw down below in the thumbnail, you guys are gearing up to take your Part 107 Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Certification. My name is Tate. I'm with Skycrave Productions, and I'm here to kind of give you a little bit of insight and some of my opinions on the Part 107 test. I just took it, and I wanted to kind of get out all my ideas as far as this being fresh in my mind. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over a little bit of the before the test, during the test, and actually after the test to give you a little bit of personal insight and some information if you guys are gearing up to take this or you're just kind of curious overall. So let's not waste any time and just jump straight into it. The way that this is going to be laid out today is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the before, I'm going to go through the during, and then I'm going to go through the after. So before is basically everything leading up to the test, the information before the test, the studying, everything like that, the actual test itself, and then the after the test. That's right, after the test as well. There is a little bit of information that you guys are going to need to know after the test that, in all honesty, I wish that I knew. So I really wanted to make this video because when I was gearing up, I did watch a couple of videos as well to kind of get prepared as much as I could and kind of find out. But ultimately, you guys are trying to find out that major question, and the major question is, how hard actually is the test when you take it? Now, I will not spare any expense here. I'm going to tell you, I did pass the test, so we're not going to get into that, and we're not going to worry about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some very important information walking through that I actually wish that I knew, and that I can give some very personal insight. So let's not waste any time, and let's just jump straight into it. So let's talk about the before the test. So if you guys are looking even to consider the test, this would be kind of considered before the test, and you guys are kind of seeking out information, so I can take it upon a pretty good thought that if you guys are here looking for this, you guys are looking for information on the test. Now, you guys have probably been bombarded by ads for any kind of actual course for the Part 107, or you guys are considering it as well. So in my opinion, there's basically kind of two avenues to get the information before the test, or to kind of access the information that you're going to need to study for the test. So one of those two avenues is to get a course, and the other one, for lack of a better term, is to basically kind of take it upon yourself and get a book. So let me start with the first one, is the course. Now, a lot of people have not actually gotten the course. They think that it's a little gimmicky, or that you don't actually need to do it. Now, in my personal opinion, what I did is I actually did get a course. The reason that I got a course didn't have anything to actually do with the information. This had to do with me personally. So I'm going to give you a piece of advice, is that you guys are going to have to know yourself a little bit, know what kind of test taker you are. For me, I am a decent test taker. But the thing is that the reason I got the course is specifically because I had to invest money into it. Now, when I invested that money, the course that I got was about $200, which is a decent amount of money. But the reason that I did it is because once I invested money, then I didn't want to let the money go to waste, and therefore now I had an obligation to actually study and follow through, because I did not want to waste the money that I actually just spent. I'm one of those types of people. I know I'm one of those types of people. If you are that type of person, I would highly recommend it as well. The reason I didn't get the book is because if I knew I did that, I would basically kind of lollygag around, I would procrastinate, I would get out. So if I did not have any personal investment, it probably would have been bad. Or if I would have taken the test, I probably wouldn't have been as prepared in my thoughts as far as the way that I am personally. Maybe, maybe not, doesn't really matter. So let's kind of jump into the course first, and I want to kind of talk about that as well. So the course itself, I'm not going to tell you exactly what course I got, because I'm not here to promote that. But what I will tell you is that the course that I had about 10 sections. Each section had about 10 videos. In each video, the videos range anywhere from about 2 minutes all the way up to 30 minutes. Now, some of them were 2 minutes, some of them were 30 minutes, depending on the actual subject matter that they were discussing. I would say that the average video time was anywhere from about 7 to 10 minutes for most videos, and a lot of the videos I kind of just skipped right through just because they weren't actually even applicable information. And as my opinion goes, is for this whole process that I'm going to get through, is that pretty much this entire thing was dramatically over the top. Now, in that case, it actually is pretty good, because you want to be over the top with information, not coming out below because of the test. You want to be very well prepared for this test, which this thing ultimately does get you if you follow it and go on through, which I did to a very certain degree. Now, On the other hand is the book and taking it upon yourself, which is actually what most people do. Now, I have a number of friends who did this, and I discussed with them at length about this, and they basically had given me pretty good insight about it, and they said, look, I don't think that you actually need a course. And in my opinion, from taking the test, I would actually probably say that that's pretty accurate if you are that type of person. Now, me taking the tests and that information had nothing to do with the actual information. It had to do with the way that I go about studying the information and the type of person I am as far as accountability. Because if I would have just sat down to access the information, I'm sure I would have figured it out and put my mind to it. But the thing is that investing money for me is the thing that does it. That's also just kind of something personal as well. But what they actually said is that I don't think that you need to do the course. In my opinion, I don't think you need to do the course either. But do not take that as gospel. Just kind of be aware of yourself and know what you guys would need to do that and to be prepared. So for that is that the reason I brought that up is because most people, especially on the internet, were giving insight from what I was looking at is that there was a guy I was looking at and he basically said, oh, he learned this information in a couple days, basically went and took the test and everything was good and he got like a 90% and it was amazing and everything is beautiful and that's great. I'm not that kind of guy. So kind of going in between, I will get back to the book later. But as far as the course goes, I thought the course was really good. So as far as me studying, you do have to study for the test regardless of this. Now, this is probably the most important part of this entire video, so please pay attention, is that regardless of which one that you do, in my opinion, you are going to need to study because you are going to need to know certain information that you cannot just pull out of the air. This information, whether you find it there in the book or if you actually access it on a course, is specific information that you're going to need to know and you're going to need to study because they will throw you curveballs on the test that you will have to know the difference between, and we'll get to that once we get to the test as well. But as far as studying, to give a pretty good range of time, is that it took me anywhere from about 2 weeks to 3 weeks to do this. Now, I was studying anywhere from about 30 minutes to an hour a night, very roughly. This was not studying where I put my glasses on, I got my calculator out, and basically hard study where everything was dead quiet and I just completely focused. It was kind of a leisure study where I walked through the videos, took a little bit of notes, and kind of walked through the information multiple times. But I did it at my leisure, and it was not something that was super, super hardcore. But that is honestly how long it took me to get through this entire course. And that was with a couple days off and a couple more days where I took it a little bit more seriously. But I would honestly say that that was a pretty decent amount of time to prepare for an average person. And I think that I'm pretty much in that category as well. Someone who thinks that they can actually do that, as far as take that on very quickly and do that, or you're a great test taker and you can access information very quickly, to each his own, go ahead and try that. It's just that when it comes to the test, again, that's another personal investment that you're going to make. I don't know you. Go about and do whatever you would like. So as far as that goes, that would be my personal insight as far as studying to the test. You do need to study for the test because you are going to need specific information about certain things, which we can kind of just transition into right now. So let's get to the actual test. As far as the test goes, is that I took my test. The test itself is 2 hours. It's 60 questions. And it ranges anywhere from, they basically pull from a pool and they randomize the questions out as far as what they're going to be giving you. Now, you also get a book. Take that into consideration from what I just said. You are going to get a book. Now, as far as getting the book and studying from the book, this was a big deal for me because I did not actually study from the book. When you get a book, you are very familiar with it. If you kind of study with it, you're flipping through, you know the charts, you're very familiar with that. Now, I did know the charts, but again, I didn't actually have a book. So the actual physical page turning back and forth and all that, I was actually unfamiliar on, and it actually took me a little bit of time to adjust, and it was something that was a little bit different. So that would be an advantage of kind of studying out of that book, physically looking at charts, walking through the legend, knowing all that kind of stuff. On top of that is that, let me kind of touch upon that other part. You are going to get a book, and in the book there is a legend. The legend will lay out all of the actual parts of the charts on there that you can look on. This by no means is an excuse not to know information, but the reason I bring it up is because when I was doing my course, I did not have a legend. So therefore, I was basically learning everything by memory, and I had everything pretty much locked in when I took the test. So when I was looking at the charts, I knew exactly what type of airspace it was because I learned it, not because I was looking at the legend. But just to give you a little bit of comfort is that it does come with a legend so that you can double check your answers and kind of look at that kind of stuff if that is applicable to the question. But just let me be clear is that on the test, they are going to try to trip you up with a number of questions. Now, this was not every question. This wasn't where they took questions and they deliberately made them hard. Some of them were incredibly hard, some of them were pretty easy, and some of them were just charts. Now, for me personally, as far as the pool and what I actually got on the test is that my test that I actually took was very chart heavy. And I'm talking about the sectional charts. So you get on, you read, they ask you a number of questions and you have to go and look at the actual chart. They're trying to test and expand and exercise your knowledge about how much you actually know about the chart information, not just the legend. Let me say that again. The chart information, not just the legend. So for example, they will give you a question that is, what type of airspace is this? And they're going to list it out, but they're not going to list it out as, say, for example, B, C, or D. They're going to lay it out as B, C, C, and then in the two C's, they're going to put specific airspace parameters that you are going to have to know. So you're going to have to know what airspace the actual C is in, like what does that occupy, and where it is on this. You're also going to need physical airspace parameters on the actual chart when you're looking at heights, you're looking at MSL, AGL, stuff like that. You're going to have to know that stuff. So that's why I would say looking at the book or a little bit of both if you guys want to be safe. But that is the way that my test landed, is it was very chart heavy. Now, again, like I said, is that I went through the course. So most of this stuff I basically knew right off the bat, but I got a little sketched out basically when I first stepped in with the book is because for me, like I said, it was pretty hard to navigate. And I'm going to just completely be honest is that the first question when I opened up the book, I was literally like, oh, fuck, like I'm fucked. I was looking at it. It basically gave me a sectional chart. I looked at the book and I had basically no idea what I was doing. I looked at the legend. Now, again, like I said, is that's because I didn't have a book. But after that, that had to do a little bit of nerves. The fact that I just invested, $176 into this test. And I honestly didn't want to blow it so that I would have to come back and take the test again. So it was a little bit of nerves. I calmed down and eventually kind of got into things. My knowledge took over. That's why being prepared is very good because once it started to take over, everything got a little bit smoother and I kind of walked through that pretty well. So to kind of continue on with that is that the other questions that I had on the test was that I had a number of questions that were literally right off of my course section and my course test that I was doing. So in my course, they gave me a practice test. Now, I know that you can also take practice tests online. I would recommend taking these tests as many times as you'd like to get a positive test. But when I was on my actual course, I took this test many, many times. And I had a pretty good idea about when I passed the test and when I did not, or what kind of score that I was looking at when it came to the test. So when it came to that, basically, I took the test the first time and I really didn't honestly know what I got. It took me about 30 minutes to get through the test, but to kind of jump back to the point of the questions is that they actually took a pool of the test in my course, and in the course, they actually pull from that specific pool. So the questions are actually exactly questions that you had on the Part 107. Once those came up, I absolutely nailed those questions out of the park. They were very easy, obviously, because I recognized them, and I got them right very, very easily and went right through the test. Now, I took the test. Test took me about 40 minutes to get through. Like I said, you guys get 2 hours. So with this, what I did is the first time I went through it took me about 40 minutes. Obviously, I went through. Please take your time in a couple different things. This is one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give you with the test is, number one is take the time that's given to you. And number two is make sure that you read the questions very carefully because, again, they will try to trip you up on a couple of the questions that are doing it. So they're going to basically lay in a word that would basically determine a certain answer, which it would be one answer, not the other. But that word would specifically kind of gear towards one of those, and they do that on questions. So just be very careful. Now, if you are careful and you recognize that, the answers should be pretty easy. I also did get a couple questions that come down to the 2023 year. Now, just a little side tangent about this is that some of the questions that I got were, I took the test in April. Now, I don't know this for sure. I won't write this in stone, but it's up to my knowledge that any kind of new safety measures that they put in place, or any kind of new implements that they put in, or new kind of information that they implement into the airman's test or the FAA comes into effect in April. And I actually took my test in April. So there was a couple questions that I was not sure of. So if you guys are doing this, be very sure that when you guys are doing this, you have the most up-to-date information that you are able to access. So for example, a couple of the questions that basically were brand new that I did not actually see on my test or the course was, one of them was about flying at night. The other one was about flying over people. These were kind of common questions that have kind of changed a little bit, and they have updated some of their policies on that. And when they did is that they took it upon themselves to do that basically right when I was taking the test. And when I saw them, I honestly didn't really know the answer, but I took a pretty educated guess at what those were. So I got through the test and basically double checked it over, went through all the charts and everything looked good. The second time I went through the test and basically reviewed it, I felt significantly better. But even after leaving the test, not to even leave you in suspense, but I honestly didn't know what I passed the test. Like I said, is that I took the test so many different times on the course, and I was pretty sure about what score I got and how many questions I knew I got right. In this one, honestly, I was a little concerned. But when I went out, they ultimately told me that I passed the test. I actually got an 80%. All you need to get on this test is, if they haven't changed it, is a 70%. Obviously, you want to get higher than that. But in my opinion, as far as the test goes, is that, like I referred to before, is that you do have to study, because they're going to try to test your knowledge. In all honesty, you have no idea what kind of questions that you're going to get. You might go out there and the guys who are giving you the information might have been pulled from a pool where the questions that they got were a lot easier than other people's questions. So you guys are going to have to know the knowledge. But when I walked in and kind of went through this, I'm not really going to lie, is that this one did actually work the knowledge that I knew, and I had to know certain things, especially for the charts. And some of the charts I didn't even know. I took a very educational guess at them, and obviously it turned out okay. But again, I cannot stress that enough, is that they pull from a pool of questions, and you might not get the same questions as the other guy. So when you watch these, just make sure that you take them with a grain of salt, and always remember that. So obviously with this, I went out and I actually passed my test. I was obviously very excited. I was very happy, very, very happy day for me. And I got through everything very well. Now, let's talk about a little bit after, and I kind of want to go on a little bit of side tangent, because I think that it is something worth mentioning. So let's touch upon this for a little bit, is because I don't want to sit here and harp. I really don't, but I do think that this is worth mentioning, considering that I went out and I got things like a driver's license and stuff like that. So in my opinion, as far as this whole situation goes, is that ultimately this was a massive, massive headache to actually accomplish. I'm not really going to sugarcoat it. Obviously, I just want to go out. I wanted to study a little bit. I wanted to take a test, and that was good. So the reason that this was is because I don't know if this is for other places, and maybe this is just with me, as far as the region that I actually live in and what I had to do. But there is a company that supplies the test, and the company is called PSI. Now, PSI is a third party. It is not associated with the FAA. The FAA basically hires PSI to provide the test. Now, PSI, in my opinion, is, like I said, I don't want to go overboard, but as far as it goes, is that they were a very, very difficult company to work for, and they were unbelievably over the top for this whole situation. Is that I had a number of situations or things that I was trying to figure out for the test, and they made it unbelievably difficult. So if you guys kind of run into this company, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up about what this company. So let's just talk about the actual timing for the test. Is that if you guys are trying to take this, obviously you want a time that's accessible. The times that they had accessible were literally 9 to 5 on work days. So if you have to do this, not only do you have to pay $176, but you have to take off of work essentially to kind of go and do this, which is just a heads up because they did not have anything for weeks to come. And I actually waited on this to see if they had any more availability that I could do that where it wasn't something that I had to take during the workday. Now, again, like I said, I don't know if this is what other people have to handle in different regions. They might have different situations, but this is the one that I had in my region. Along with that, what I had is that I was having a situation in which I was trying to find those times, trying to get everything lined up. But in doing so, in the before parts to actually take the test, is that you have to do something with the FAA, and then you have to go sign up with PSI, and you need both parts to actually accomplish to get a time, which is incredibly difficult as far as it goes, which it shouldn't have been. But in this case it was, and PSI was incredibly difficult to work with. I called them a multiple amount of times. I called them about 6 times, and at the 6th time they basically gave me an answer that they should have given me the first time and completely solved my problem that would have been immediately solved and something that was incredibly easy. But on to the second part. Now, if that was actually just the case, I don't think I would really mention it, but on the actual day of the test, I walked in and there was a representation or a representative, there was a representative from PSI, and basically he went through, and the first thing that he did is that when I was taking the actual test, there was a couple of people there, but they weren't taking the same test that I was, but they were actually going through PSI still. So in the actual test, what they do is obviously they ask for your phone, which is fine. You turn the phone off. That's no problem, not necessarily that big of a deal. I pretty much expected that. But then they go and they actually physically pat you down, which I guess is okay. Then they ask you to lift up your sleeves. They're looking at to see if your tattoos, to see if they have any writing on them. So if you have any tattoos, they're going to do an extensive search of your tattoos, even if it's on your back, to try to see if there's any writing on them. So if they are on your back, you have to physically lift up your shirt. They're not only going to do that, they're going to go on your legs, have you lift up your pant legs to see if there's anything down there and if you're hiding anything. Or if you have sleeves, they have to roll them up and do that. Again, like I said, is that all of this was starting to be a recurring problem where PSI was, with lack of a better term, they're a fucking nightmare. And they were incredibly tough to deal with, especially given the fact that what I had to do is really not that difficult. As far as the FAA, again, like I said, is that this whole thing was incredibly over the top for flying something like this. In my opinion, I actually think that there should be certain classes of this, given the fact that this is 249 grams and there's ones that fall below different weight standards, is that I think that would be more applicable where there are certain parts of the test that you do not have to take. There are certain parts on the test that are completely and utterly fucking useless. The fact that I need to know dew points and I need to know the type of fog, or that I have to learn that kind of deep shit about weather is really dumb, and I do not think is applicable to flying this at all. There are other things, on the other hand, that I do think are very applicable to flying this. Most of them have to revolve around safety measures, visual observers, pilot in command, stuff like that, is because I think that people actually go out there and they do dumb stuff all the time, and they need to be safe with their drone. Let me be clear again, they need to be safe with their drone, and that is something that obviously I encourage because I don't want anyone to get hurt, but this whole thing, in a nutshell, was incredibly over the top, and a lot of the things that I find with the drone are very eye-rolling. Is that when you talk to anyone, say for example, is that if I wanted to do a job with this, and basically if I had exchanged money without my license and the FAA found out about it, the fact that I could get penalized for $50,000 to $100,000 is absolutely fucking crazy. That is so far over the top. And a lot of the things basically fall within that same category, and it's incredibly eye-rolling and very over the top, and discourages a lot of people from actually flying, or the fact that they could have penalties like that. Now, I know that that's very, very far-fetched as far as that goes, but in all honesty, there are a lot of people who actually had very real-world scenarios with something like that happening, which, again, like I said, is so over the top. But regardless, is that with that, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents, and I wanted to make clear is that there were things on the test that I thought were absolutely 110% things that you need to know. Things like safety, things like airspace I thought was very good, but I thought that they could do that in different classes of drones because it's very clear that, say, for example, if you're on a movie set with something that's like 50 pounds compared to something like this, is that is a whole different class of drone, and there should be a test that reflects that isn't something that's all-encompassing for something like this. So ultimately, that's basically everything I got. I really hope that this video helped you guys out. If you guys liked the video, please like and subscribe if that's something that you guys like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link some of my videos down below. You guys can see all of my lovely footage as far as flying in South America and flying pretty much all around and kind of taking some amazing footage and making some amazing videos. I'm going to link them down below. But if you guys like the video, please like and subscribe. I do appreciate you guys stopping by and hope this video helped you out. So that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you very much. Take care.